a little stripped down. I don't have any handouts for you. And for a couple of reasons, you know, development, it involves a lot of things. And I think everybody in this room's probably got a project they'd like to do. Some are big projects, some are little projects, some are projects you got to go see the state, some are the county, some we don't talk about. Mostly we don't talk about it because, you know, I've been doing this 40 years and I can honestly tell you sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness because usually when you ask for permission, it's always no. And it's always a big deal. And it just bothers me. I mean, I've worked all over the state. And I've worked in some counties where you go and you see the county administrator or something, said, oh, that looks really good. You know, you do a good job, just go do it. Then you go to like down in Madison, and you can spend 6 months getting a permit, you know, to put one box in the ground. And then, you know, then you want to see engineering drawings, they want to see a stamp on it and all these kinds of things. And so, you know, it's a mess. You know, I sit on the State Parks Building Commission, basically, and it's interesting because, you know, the governor, or past governor anyway, for those of you who know, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Madison dealing with a lot of the governor, lieutenant governors, senators, secretaries, etc. We had an incredible working experience the last 8 years. I can honestly tell you right now, I have no clue what's going to happen. I was at a meeting last week with the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader Boss, and they basically said, what's going to happen the next 4 years is all we're going to do. We're not going to get anything done, and we're just going to protect what we already have. So, you know, trying to get anything that's going to be helpful for campgrounds, I don't know. Don't know anybody. You got to start all over again. Okay? But we did get accomplished a lot of things in the last 8 years that made it a little user-friendly. But this whole development thing, one of the things the governor had said in the past was, it's called uncertainty. When you don't know what you can do or you can't do, you don't do anything. You don't spend money, you don't hire people, and you know, you don't stick your neck out. And so a lot of things weren't happening prior to the last 8 years. A lot of things did get done. Some things I don't like, I mean, they did make a few more regulations. Like, we used to be able to do all our own electrical work. Now, all of a sudden, we're not good enough. Okay? Don't like that idea. Okay? Plumbing, we were never supposed to be doing any plumbing, and yet most of us have done a lot of plumbing, or you have a hybrid. We did all the grunt work. Like, they don't want to dig. They don't want to get dirty. So you have them put all the fittings together. And then you do the backfilling and the grading and all that kind of stuff. So that's still happening. You know, if you've got, most of us have good plumbers. I mean, plumbing and electrical work really is personal. I was a general contractor for 30 years before I got into the campground business. So, you know, you have a good set of workers and you get good relationship. And, you know, at the end of the day, we want to do the best job that we can. There's no reason to cut corners. We wanted the right size wire, the right size water, etc. Because when it's done right, we don't have to work on it later. Because, you know, our biggest problem in campgrounds is when you bought a place that was built by others, and then you find out a lot of problems. Undersized piping, undersized electrical, you know, bad fittings, whatever. And you have to deal with it. So, you know, it's important that whatever we do, let's do the best job that we possibly can. So, you know, we talk about development, and most of us, you know, I just came back from Detroit. I was there for 2 days. The guy wants to build a 250-unit park. And this park was going to be, I don't know what you think a site should cost. I know some of us have built brand new, some brand new sites. And I've seen prices from $12,000 to $20,000 per site. Does that sound like a reasonable number?
No.
It doesn't. Why doesn't it? Why? What do you think it should be?
Right around
4,000. And that's roads, sewer, water, electric.
Well, each site, not including the road, because.
But roads are part of the deal because you got to have roads.
Maybe 5 sites.
Well, you know, nowadays, you know, we talked about blacktop this morning, or at least that came up. But this part be $37,000 per site to put it in. Now, you got to look at, you know, when we say development, you look at what do we, let's start out with just, do we have flat ground? Is that easier to work in? Yeah, flat's easy. What if you have topography issues in that? Okay, you can't always put a campsite on a hill because your camper can't get there. You can put a rental unit there, but if you're going to put sewer in, the sewer's all got to run downhill somehow. Okay, so are we digging through sand? Are we digging through gravel? Are we digging through clay? Or let's go to Door County. What do we got? 6 inches and we have solid stone. Okay, so you know all of these types of things hinder what things are going to cost. I was in a park called Drummer Boy out by Gettysburg. Okay, he put in a beautiful water park and more sites, and by the time he got done, he had to go back to the bank and borrow $300,000 because he was going through solid granite, and it cost him a ton of money to core through it or to use diamond trenchers to get through. $300,000. Had to go back to the bank. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like going back to the bank and asking for money. Okay, I just don't. It makes you look stupid because you went in there and said, hey, I want $1 million, and all of a sudden you need $1.5 million. Then their confidence in your ability has just plummeted. Okay, so, you know, development is a funny thing. A lot of us have gone out and bought existing parks, and you know, everything looked good until, you know, the first day it's 90 degrees out. Everybody's plugged in, and everything's popping. You know, what the hell? I paid $50 a night and I got no air conditioning. You go back to the breaker, you flip it on. 2 minutes later, the thing's flipping off. You go back again and it's turning color. It's gray now. It's supposed to be black. Okay, and so is it overloaded? Yeah, it's overloaded. What are you going to do that day? Nothing. You're going to go back and say, well, you got 2 air conditioners on the roof. Can you turn one of them off? That might help. Or I tell you what, why don't you go to town and come back when it's dark out and it'll be cooler and then they might stay on, you know? I mean, we've all had these problems. And then you look at it and you say, now what am I going to do? Then you start looking at how was it wired. Back in the day, I mean, I've been in parks with 15, 20 trailers on one circuit. But back in the day, they didn't have the rigs that we have today. I've been in parks that were wired with Romex from tree to tree. Okay, that worked fine when you only had tents. But you know, now we got a trailer. We got a 30-amp plug, and you only got number 12 wire running through the place between trees. Okay, I've seen wires turn cherry red, and I've seen the insulation catch fire and drip down on the road. Okay, I've seen that too. So, you know, at some point, you know, you've got to say, I got to upgrade. Nowadays, when we look at a development, would you ever build a campsite with just a 30-20 blocks?
No.
You'd never do that. It would always be a 50, 30, 20. In the day, 10 years ago, you could have 10 boxes on a 100-amp panel. Now it's 7. Okay? And then we talked about in the electrical seminar, how far do you have to run? That decides how big your wire is going to be. I mean, I've been in many times when we've had, you know, in a park that might have 12 or 15 units on a site, and you say, I'm going to have to split it. So you get a hold of a power company, and you figure out either you're going to trench, soil bore, or something to put another 200-amp pedestal over there and then break the line in 2 directions. That works pretty good, you know. I've been in parks where they did the whole park in 3/4-inch water line. How does that work? Well, it works pretty good if you only got 50 sites, but if you got a lot of sites and you have topography issues, now you have to upgrade. So I've seen people go in and put all new water lines in. What size water line should you bury today if you were building a new park? What would you use?
2 inch.
2 inch. What if you got only inch? What can we do with a park that has 1 inch and not replumb it? Anybody know?
Build the pressure up. Just run higher pressure.
Well, you
It
can,
overcomes some line loss.
well, but you see, yes and no. The problem is that if you've got 3/4 inch and you, let's say you put 100 pounds of pressure, you can still only get so much water through a 3/4 inch. okay? So you might up the pressure, but you didn't move any volume. So you don't have enough water to feed 50 trailers, okay? So, and I was in a park, years and years ago, and we've done this recently. You build a shed, put a 500-gallon water tank in it. You fill that with low pressure water, 20, 30 pounds of pressure, then you suck out of that with a pressure pump, and so you break the line and you feed with, so now you've got plenty of water, because your pumps, a lot of your pumps won't put out enough water. Most people have wells that are only moving 35 to 70 gallons a minute. And in the DNR, how many gallons can you have on a campground before you become a municipal? Anybody know the answer to that? Pardon me? No, I believe the number, don't quote me, is like 137 gallons a minute. So if you took all your wells and add them up, if you exceed that, now you're a municipal water supply. New set of rules, okay? New set of rules. So, a lot of people, you say, hey, I don't want to be another permit from another entity, and so it's easier then to store water and then pump it from multiple locations. Some places you've seen, they'll put what's called a water column. You know what a water column is? It's just like a big tank. And all they do is fill it at night, and you suck off it during the day. Or you put in a water tower. Or you put, pardon me?
Cistern.
A cistern is underground. You gotta be careful, because the DNR doesn't like any water anymore. Remember the old wells where you would have a tank underground? Or you had a water pit, or you had to go down to get to your thing? They don't like pits anymore. Anything subterranean, can be contaminated. So, they keep changing the rules, and you have to live within those boundaries. Yes, sir.
Sometimes you can help out with the capacity when you have the peak demand, is just by having some pressure tanks with the bladder.
Pressure, that's another one.
That helps even out some of the peak.
Correct.
In the valley.
I mean, I've been in parks where they have 9 or 10 of those in a row. But they're really nothing but storage tanks. They'll hold 100 gallons of water. You got 9 tanks, it's 900 gallons, and it has a bladder in it, and it's keeping constant pressure on 900 gallons of water, okay? The new wells have a centrifugal pump that turns at a different RPM. Anybody got those?
Variable speed.
Pardon me?
They're variable speeds, yeah.
Variable speed. So when you have a big demand, they're just to crank it. When you have a little bit of demand, they're going, so they got a little computer chip in them, and you got a small tank. But if you exceed that pump's ability to pump, you're going to run out of water. I've been in parks where, one park that I used to own, we drilled a well, 300 feet. Didn't get any water out of it. So now I got $10,000 in a hole with no water. So then we have what's called fracking. And you pay a fracker to come in, they literally split the rock, is what they're doing. Okay, so that was another $2,500 for them to come in and split the rock. So now I got water, 3.2 gallons a minute. So you say, well, how does that work? Well, I got a 300-foot water column that's 8 or 10 inches in diameter down 300 feet. Well, if you fill that up, it'll hold maybe 1,000 gallons of water. So for a house, it'll work just fine. You got water, and you take a shower, flush the toilet, all that. And in a park, if you got only 5 or 10 trailers on it, that'll work. But if you water the lawn, in 30 minutes, you'll burn the pump up. And you'll be pulling that out, $4,700 later, you'll be putting another one in. So, all of these things enter into the development thing. A lot of us want to add more sites. The easiest part to a site development is really dealing with the state. We rewrote the state code. It's real simple. How many sites can you have per acre? Anybody know? How many? 25. That's what you can have. Now, we found that in Columbia County, where I live, Columbia County has 17 campgrounds in Columbia County. And they thought 25 sites per acre is stupid. So they had a meeting, and we all were in on this meeting, and they thought they should lower the numbers. You were in on that, right?
I think it's 8.
It's actually, that is correct, 8. And you know how they got to 8? Do you remember? Yeah. They took every single campground and pulled up their site maps, all of them. And they pulled mine up, and I have the most density of anybody in the county. Every square inch of that park is used, and I'm at 7.97 or something. And so they said, we're gonna make it 8. And they looked at me and I said, well, I guess I really don't have a problem because I really don't have any more space. So I can live with that law. But I said, I don't think it's really fair if somebody else that has perfectly flat ground and could easily put 15 in there, let's say. And now you've taken the ability of that guy who's paying taxes on all his land, and you're saying, but you can't use 15, you can only use 8. So I didn't, but at the time, I mean, everybody in the room was far less than me, so we agreed to that. So that's the rule in Columbia County. Now, how many counties are there in Wisconsin, folks?
72.
72. You think they all have the same set of rules? They're not even close, okay? I was up in Sawyer County. You know where that is? Hayward. Guys they got really nice parks up there. What is it, 3-4 years ago? They don't want park miles, period. They don't want them. And yet Hayward was a big place to be moving park miles to. When you have a few bucks, like 60, 65,000, you probably buy a park mile. You know what? Why Hayward or Sawyer County didn't like park miles? Anybody know? Because you can't tax them. They're under 400 square feet. So here you got the local guys going, well, what the heck? All these lake people or Minnesota or Chicago, they're all coming here, and we can't collect any money on it. So here you are, you've got a campground. Wouldn't we all love to have a campground full of park miles? I think you would. And here's somebody else telling you you can't have it. Well, they lost that battle. They lost the battle when it came to the park miles. So what did they do the next year? They passed an ordinance they couldn't have anything in a campground over 12 feet. Huh? No, I mean, but park miles are what, 12'6" or something? So all of a sudden now you still can't have a park mile, you see? So you see, that's what you're up against in development, okay? I have a lot of, as a consultant, I probably get a dozen calls a year from people who say, I got this beautiful piece of land and I want to build a campground there. And I'm like, okay. And they said, can you come out and take a look at it? And I said, you know, I could come here and take your money, but let me tell you where you start. Go and set up a town board meeting first. Find out if they would even like the idea of a campground. That'd be number one. Then they're going to tell you, maybe, you need to go see the county, because you got to have the county's blessing. But the county usually says, if the township doesn't want it, we're not going to let you have it. Okay? And they usually, oh, I've been living here forever, you know, my brother-in-law, he's on the board, and, you know, my neighbors are great people. And I said, I'm just telling you, plant the seed. Don't talk to me yet. I'm going to tell you right now, you have probably less than a 50-50 chance of actually getting it done. They call me back in 2 or 3 months because, you know, it takes time. You got to get on the meeting. You can't just call, hey, I want to come down tomorrow. You got to get on the agenda, okay? And then if they're even remotely interested, hey, well, we got to invite the neighbors and have a conversation. That's when you find out the neighbors hate you. You thought they were your friends. And I mean, I was working on one in Door County last year, and it was amazing. There was like 180 letters that came against having a campground. And I mean, one of them said, oh, I have a historic school building made out of brick, and the smoke from the campfire is going to diminish the outside, and the things are like a mile away. Okay? I mean, and this is the stuff that was coming out. You know, they say, oh, we don't want to look at a bunch of ugly trailers. Well, this is Door County, man. How many motor coaches you got pulling into your place?
Quite a few.
Yeah. Yeah, they only start at like 150 to 200,000, towing a car that's probably 60,000, and that's ugly. And they come into Door County, which is all touristy, right? And all those little shops, what do they sell? junk, real high price stuff, okay? So the guy in that big rig's the guy who's shelling the coin out, right? But oh no, we don't want another campground here, you know? So long story short, didn't happen. Remember, we go back to the first thing I said, uncertainty. The governor says when you have uncertainty, people don't expand, they don't spend money, they don't do anything. And we've had a lot of that, you know, over the years. So anyway, you know, we got involved in the park. I got another really great story. The DNR has been talking about building cabins in the state parks. What do you guys think of that? Okay, well, they kind of gave up a little bit on that because I said, well, if you're going to build cabins, you're going to have amenities in them. You know, people like toilets and they like sinks. Well, they don't want to do that. So then, you know, over the years, you know, they've always wanted to increase the number of campsites that have electric. You've heard that story? And their state charter says that they can only have 25% of their sites can be electric. So we bent a little bit years ago, and we said, okay, we'll let you go to 30%. And then we saw the fine print, and they had like 30%. Well, is that 30% of all the sites in the state? So, you know, if you have 1,000 sites, 30% would be 300, right? We're going to put all 300 at Devil's Lake. See, they were going to play that game. No. No one park could have more than 30% of their sites. So, you know, we had to read the fine print because they don't play fair.
I thought it was 30% of your district.
Wouldn't matter, it's 30% in any park. This is states. Now, counties can do whatever they want, but this is state parks.
Because at Rosa Cree, we've been trying to get more electrical sites there, and the state says we can't because it's 30% of the whole district.
Okay. Well, now they have tried to increase, they want to add 1,700 electric sites in Wisconsin, and we happen to have, Waco had intercepted that whole program. And so I said, well, guys, we need all the DNR people, and we need to have a meeting. So we all met down at WMC a couple of years ago, and I said, okay, what's going on? And we're reading this 100-page book they put together. And, you know, they made a point. I mean, obviously their occupancy would be good and blah, 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 blah. But I said, I'm reading this thing. I said, how much money are you going to spend on 1,700 sites? How much does it cost to put one electric pedestal in?
Depends on how far you're gonna go.
Give me a number.
Say,
Campsite's there already. We're just going to put
say
electric.
1,000 and 1,000.
How much? $1,000? Okay. Well, came out to $4,200 a piece is what the state was going to pay for one electric house. And so I'm sitting at the table with these guys, and I said, I'd really like to see the breakout of this. Who are you bidding this job for? Because this is $7 million that you're going to spend for this electric. I'll do it for $5 million. Okay? I said, how do you get to a number like that? I priced this whole thing out. I said, okay, let's figure every 50 feet. And what do we find out what's wired today? For 275 again. Yeah, I figured when it was high, when it was real high, I figured $8 a foot. So I said, okay, let's figure $8 a foot. Let's figure 3 men who know what they're doing. $100 an hour per man. Okay, $350 a pedestal. We know they don't cost that. I said, I came up with $1,200 under the worst conditions on the planet. How did you get over 4,000? Nobody wanted to answer that. I said, we need to have another meeting. We need to have a meeting with the governor because somebody has to know how bad the taxpayers getting stiffed for this kind of development. Well, to this date, nothing's happened. There hasn't been a conversation. Now we have a new governor. So who knows? But you can see there's such a big difference between what you and I would pay to put in an amenity and what the state is willing to pay to put into an amenity. And the reality of it is the Department of Administration, who sets all the parameters, they've never been in a ditch. They've never put anything in the ground. But they have the same guys that they've worked with for 30 years, and it's like a license. And I said, I would love the opportunity to get in on that deal. how many people here want to expand their park at all? And what is it you want? You want to add more sites. You want to add more sites. Sites, 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 sites. More sites, right?
More sites.
How many people want to put in sites that have just electric and water? And how many want the sewer? No, yeah, we want, okay, now here's the thing. There's such a thing as I have a want list and what I can get. So, you say, I want sewer. Can you really get it? Do you have a drain field? Do you have a place to put it? If you don't have those things, you can't have it. Okay? So, and those of you who've done this, once you've done it one time with your group of people, usually to add on, like in your case, you're going to add on probably what, the Oasis. See, that's already been, they added 100 plus sites there. Everybody knows the outcome. It's beautiful, blah, blah, blah. You probably got a really good chance of making that happen. But if you've never done any of this work in the past, it becomes a challenge, okay? Generally what happens is the guy who goes in who's prepared, if you go in with a napkin and say, this is what I want, I guarantee you won't get anything. They really want you to spend money up front. You want an engineering plan. Why do they want an engineering plan, folks? Because it has a stamp. And what does that stamp do? It relieves all the liability. The guy who's looking at your plan, he's not that smart. The guy that's smart is the guy that's drawing it up and stamping it. So you see the villages or the counties, they depend on that stamp to say, yeah, this looks good and it'll work because this engineer says it will. Is that always the case? No. I worked on a park last year where an engineering firm put a drawing together for a campsite with 60 sites. 60. How big do you think the water main is for 60? 60 sites. How big a water line would you run for 60 sites? 2 inch. Why is there a 6-inch water main in that park? Okay. Now guess what? Who owned the park? A municipality. They don't know anything. Well, the engineers know that. So let's really spend some money. So that park spent about $1 million more than it had to out of stupid. They know that now. Okay. So, there's a lot of things that you can do on your own. And 2 inches of good water line, a lot of play. But here's the thing. I was in another park where they made us put in 2-inch water line. Guess what size the pipe was coming out of the well? 1 inch. I'm like, 1 inch, 2 inch, and you only had to hook them together. But you see, at the end of the day, that 2-inch pipe, there's like a mile of it in the ground, holds a lot of water. So you see that pipe really becomes a reservoir, volume. This pipe here is the pressure behind it, or if you put pressure tanks in, you're going to feed a pressure tank. If you look at these bladder tanks, the water line on the bottom is only 1 inch. That's all it is. And you got a manifold between them all, and then it hooks up to the 2-inch. So it's all about, a capacity over here, volume over here. So, sir.
If you have a choice when you're siting your well, if you can keep it centrally located and you radiate out from it instead of running everything off of 1 2-inch, you could run 1.5 inches or whatever out if you're not trying to spread the whole park through that one pipe.
You're 100%. And if I was, if I had a choice of where to put a well, I'd build a bitch on the hill. It don't cost that much more to go another 100 feet. I put my well and my pressure tanks up in the air and let everything gravity down.
You don't gain much, you only gain 1.5 pounds per foot.
Probably, but but you're right. Putting it in the middle somewhere makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, but a lot of times you don't have a choice. Another problem with development is arsenic. Anybody got an arsenic problem? You ever heard about it? Okay, years ago, when I'm saying the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the federal law or state law, I think it's federal, the arsenic content in your well could not exceed 50 parts per million. And then one day the EPA woke up one day and said, you know what, that's too high. They lowered it to 10 parts per million. where most people in Wisconsin were at 25 parts per million. But so, you know, at 25, you're sitting there going, hey, no problem. 50's a long ways away from 25. Now, all of a sudden, you're at 10, and you're going, well, what do I do? We had a park that had that problem. Went to the DNR, and I said, okay, how do I fix it? Don't know, hire an engineer. That was their answer. I said, so you've created a law that can put me out of business, and you can't even tell me how to fix it? Nope, hire an engineer. So we go to an engineer, and this was a new problem in Wisconsin. And so, you know, we ended up with a big water outfit and said, you know what, we've never had to do this before. We will build a system, and we will talk to the DNR about putting the system in your park and trying it for a year to find out if it works. Well, it did. And then to put the system in was $125,000 to solve the arsenic problem. All because they changed the rule. So then other people who've had arsenic problem, they go to their neighbor, and the neighbor, you got arsenic? No. So they say, well, maybe we'll just drill another well. So, you know, that's another way. You could move a well 100 feet and not hit arsenic. Or you could drill a hole for $12,000 and kiss it goodbye. You don't know. So you see, all of these kinds of things enter into your development thing. I mean, there's no certainties. Or you've got good water, I don't want to drill another well, I'll store it. And you end up building a building or some way to use what you got, because you could drill another. How many people have high iron? I've been in parks where you can paint your bathrooms with iron. Take 2 showers and the wall will be brown. Okay, you got a leaky toilet, the inside of that bowl will be brown. Then the women complain, why is my hair a different color? It's that bad.
Blonde girls love orange hair.
Yeah, and how do you get rid of it? You can put in filters. It'll be costly. But when you put an iron filter in or an arsenic filter, keep in mind that your system has to backwash. Where does that water go? Is that going into your sewer? Because you can't dump it on the ground. They won't let you just let it flow out in a ditch. Which, hey, it's the drinking water, right? Why can't I just put it in the ditch? No, can't do it. It's too concentrated now, okay? But if you have a sewage treatment plant, a backwash for a big system, 3,000 gallons a day times 30 days. That's 90,000 gallons a month.
Just
times
a
12
backwash?
months.
Just a backwash?
Just a backwash.
Wow.
And that's going into your treatment plant or whatever, and you're paying for every gallon that goes in there. So that can kill you, you know, if you hadn't planned on it, okay? A lot of, how many people here are tied into a municipal sewer? Okay, and how do they bill you?
I'm still on, I gotta learn that.
Well, usually, you have city water?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they usually, whatever water you're using, they double or triple that, and that's what they charge you for the sewer.
It's not bad. I'm actually just buying the resort for 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's like a couple grand a year or something. That's small.
That's cheap. I mean, I've seen guys at $2,000 a month, you know. There again, if you're pumping water out of a well and you're putting it in municipal sewer, some towns, they just guess at it. Guessing meaning, actually this park on Michigan I was at, that municipality is looking at like a tap fee of $60,000 just to hook to it up front. Then they were looking at what does the average household in the community use in water, and if they say it's 300 or 400 gallons a day, they were going to take every campsite times 300 gallons a day. And it's like, well, we got nobody here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But you see, they don't care, you know. So it was like you had to negotiate. I was in a park down in Kentucky, and we built a 3-acre pond, and we needed 7 million gallons of water. We drilled 4 wells and couldn't get over 5 gallons per hour, 5 gallons a minute out of the well. So it was going to be impossible to fill that. And right next door is a water tower. And the village said that, well, in the beginning, the reason we were drilling the wells, because they said they were going to charge $60,000 to buy that water out of that tower. When all is said and done, we got it all for $5,000. But why did we start at 60? What was the deal, you know? So So, you know, you can't, all of these things enter in your development decisions. So it's not just simple. How many people are putting cabins in this year? Okay, it's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? Put them in, they're full, you make money. You know, we spent 3 years passing a law that we could build our own cabins now, but prior to that, you couldn't build your own. You had to buy a park model. So, you know, the reason that we sold this was we can build a better cabin than we can buy. That's for a fact. When we build them, we can create jobs, and that was kind of what the governor wanted, was how do we create jobs? Because when you buy a park model, most of them are made in Indiana. Well, that doesn't help Wisconsin at all. And, you know, keep in mind that when you put these units in, you're paying sales tax on every dime that goes through there. So that's kind of good for the state, you know, to have that kind of source of revenue. But, you know, when you add these sites, do you take a site that you already have and put a trailer on it or a rental? It's not the wisest thing to do, unless it's a really crappy site. But, you know, if you've got some real estate in your park that's not so nice, that's the place to be putting these trailers. And, you know, you might need a SkyTrack, you might need a crane, you might need a cat, you might need a 200 horsepower tractor to get it there. But, you know, once you get it there, you're talking between 20 and 30% return on investment. That's what you should be looking at. How, you know, everything you do in your park. Let me ask a simple question. I'll ask this guy. How long have you owned your park?
I don't own them.
You don't own one yet. Okay, I'll ask Joe. I'll bet he has the answer though. You probably know how many site nights just about every site in your park generates, correct? And you probably know how much money at the end of October every site made. Can everybody here tell me that they know exactly what every single site in their park generates in a year? I mean, if you don't have that number, you better go home and start thinking about it, because you can't make any decisions, you can't make good decisions if you don't have that information. And so, you know, when I look at, if, you know, I get $3,200 a year for a seasonal site. If I have a pull-through that's really nice, I make $5,200 a year on a pull-through that's tricked out. Well, obviously, I'm not going to put a seasonal on that site. And if I can make a ton of pull-through sites that are really nice and make $5,200, I'm going to build them, okay? But if I have some sites that are generating $2,100 versus $3,200, I have to look at that and say, what's wrong with this thing? Why isn't everybody here? Maybe I got to pour a concrete slab and trick it out. Well, a slab can be $2,000 to $3,000. But if I can add an extra $1,000 a year, the payback is 33%. That's how you look at it. So, you know, if you finance that for 5 years, you're going to make money the first day. That's one way to look at it, okay? If I've got 10 sites, I had 10 sites that were making $1,500 a year. And I said, what's wrong with these sites? They're 10 sites, and they're not paying but 35 or 40 bucks a night. But they didn't have electricity. That's why we called them tent sites, or you maybe call them primitive sites. And people do that because they don't want to spend any money. Now show me a tenter that doesn't have a plug. Do they have a phone? Do they have a radio? Do they have an electric fry pan? Do they have a 20-inch box fan? Okay, show me a tenter that won't plug in. Well, guess what? All of our sites have electric, and now the tent site's $45 a night, and they're full, and they're at $2,300, $2,400 just by putting the pedestal in. Well, if you're going to put an electric pedestal, you might as well run a water line, right? Goes the same trench. Now, remember I told you about the state park's going to put the electric in for $4,000 plus. I said, you are going to bury a water line with that, right? Oh no, if you think that was expensive, you should see what it costs to put the water in. I said, guys, I figured it out for you. I said, just to buy the pipe, the riser, 2 ball valves, and a T. I said, with labor, under the worst conditions, $463 bucks. So why would you do all of that work and not put that stuff in? I still see private campgrounds that just kind of do one thing. Why would you do that? And we go a step farther. You know how much a coil of telephone wire costs for direct burial? You might as well buy a 1,000-foot spool and just run that wire up to a loop. Maybe you'll use it, maybe you won't. Okay? Yes, sir.
I give Charter, they give me the coax and I bury it with
There
my
you go.
wire. They give it to me.
Yeah, I've had some Wi-Fi guys, you know, say, hey, we're gonna put in a satellite, we'll give you the wire if it ends up over here, okay? So, you know, I mean, when you're, now the other thing, if you bury a water line, how many of you guys bury either location tape or a copper wire with your water line? See, a lot of people don't do that. Well, hey, down the road I might want to find the thing. Well, you can't find it without a wire or a
If you
piece
have
of metal.
enough iron in your water, it might work.
Yeah. So, you know, so when you're doing these development things, think about that kind of stuff. And it's like Joe said, or yeah, Joe, you said this morning, or you can find it with your trencher. And I found I've been in a lot of parks and we found all kinds of stuff in the ground. We had no clue was there. And so, you know, make sure you buy a lot of stuff to repair things. Sir?
One thing I do when I bury any utilities, if it's at all possible, and it usually is it's straight line.
Oh.
And I don't make a corner unless it's at a riser. That helps a lot. Then it's visual. You know where the stuff is within a foot. You know, it's not going to be exact, but you try to make it straight
Sometimes
line.
you can't do the line. Now, if you got trees, if you
Oh, I agree.
own oak trees, okay, if you cut the roots, okay, you know what a flume is? That's the bush. That's how big the roots are. So if you're going to bury something around an oak tree, make sure you go outside that flume, because you start cutting the roots, the tree's dead the next year. It's going to die. I mean, it's so terrible that if you drive like heavy equipment around an oak tree, tractor, cat, bobcat, if you're on it long enough, the tree's going to die too, you know. So you know, you got to do a look at that. I mean, you know, over the years for me, at Smoky Hollow, 12 years, I probably cut 130 oak trees down. And I have oak wilt, so it's not all my fault, but I mean, they just don't handle anything. And then you got to spend money planting trees. And a tree to get shade is anywhere from 15 to 30 years. You know, unless you want to go out and buy what's called instant shade, which is 8 or 9 inch trunk, and you'll spend $2,000 per tree. You do that too. So the development, you know, then you have, let's shift from site development to amenity development. And you know, I for one, you know, I have a brand called Camping for the Fun of It. It's all about the stuff. So you know, when you look at parks that have swimming pools, volleyball, you know, bikes and trikes, spaceball, jumping pillows, you know, that's stuff. And usually the people with the most stuff win. You've heard the story about boys and their toys. The guys with the most toys win. Well, there's a lot of similarities. So, so you know, when you put in like a splash pad or a swimming pool or a swimming pond, you know, all of those things have return on investment. When you put them in, I mean, like, why would you build a swimming pool? Well, if you don't have one, you better have something, okay? Now, swimming pools are a lot of money, right? And depending on their size, you know, in Wisconsin, if your pool is under 2,000 square feet, you don't need a lifeguard. You know that. If it's 1 foot over 2,000, now you got to hire a lifeguard. If it's over 4,000 square foot, you need 2 lifeguards. If you put a water slide on it, you need a pool attendant on the top of the slide and one at the bottom. You just added some more, you know, what's a full-time employee cost in the summer usually? For a full summer, I always figure $5,000 to $6,000 per employee. So if I put the water slide in, I got $5,000 at the top, $5,000 at the bottom, right? So you better make sure that that amenity that you put in is packing your park full of people. Because if it's not changing your cash flow, why did you do it? Just because you're a nice guy? You know, you got to look at that. I, for one, people who know me, I built swimming ponds because I could put 1 million gallons of water in the ground for under $100,000. You build a small swimming pool, it's $100,000, and you're only going to get 40 people in it. I put 300 people into a swimming pond. It's also one of the few things that's not regulated. And I'm always looking for things that nobody's regulating, okay? Really. I'm always looking for that. It's a big deal. Remember, I go back to what the governor said, uncertainty. If I don't know what some regulator might do or what he might slap me with, I might not do it, okay? When I know he can't do anything, I'm on it, okay? You know, you look at your amenity package, you're not going to do anything that isn't going to have return on investment in the long run. And, you know, I see people, I was in a park the other day, the guy says, well, I want to buy some bikes. And I said, well, what are you going to buy? He said, well, I think I'm going to buy 5 pedal cards. We all know what a pedal card is. And I said, so how did you come up with just 5? He said, well, they're $900 a piece. I said, okay. So let's see, how many sites do you have? 250. How many people is that in a normal weekend? 1,000 to 1,500. Normal family is what? 2.3, 2.4, 3 point? Okay, now family of 4. Husband, wife, and 2 kids. Want to do the family thing. Isn't that what we're selling? They want to go for a bike ride. You only have 5 bikes. They took 4. What's the next family doing? You only got 500 of them in the park. What are they going to do? You see, you don't have enough bikes. And the guy said, well, Bud, how many do you have? And I said, 103. And at 10 o'clock, you can't get one. All right? Because we built a facility so that those families can do their thing. So it's important that you have enough stuff. You build a swimming pool, yeah, you can build a pool for 30 people, but if you've got 500 swimmers, that's not going to work out for you, is it? You know, then they're going to bitch about what? There's too many people in the pool. How many people have a pool? How many people have lounge chairs around your pool? How many lounge chairs do you have around your pool, ma'am?
Oh, about 24.
And how many can you think you could put around there if you had unlimited money?
It's already too small.
It's a small pool?
Yeah.
Okay. But, you know, I have been in so many pool structures with people, and I said, where's the chairs? And they say, why would I give them chairs? They can bring their own chairs. You see, now that attitude doesn't make you any money. Now you can go buy a Chase lounge chair from Menards on sale for 40 bucks. And you'll get 2 years out of it. That's about it. Then you throw it away. But if you feel like, you know, for me, I got 150 of them. And I throw away probably 30 of them in a summer. All right? But, you know, do people recognize I got 150 of them? Yeah. Is that part of my plan? A big pond, all the toys, I got the chairs, you know, now I put a lemonade stand in, make another $1,200 squeezing lemonade, you know, that's easy money in 3 hours, you know. Then you got food specials, like, you know, taco special every day, a spaghetti special. You know, what are we doing here? You see, that's called development, guys, because you have to have the infrastructure and you have to have the equipment to do these things. But why did you do them? Return on investment. You know, I don't want to make $50,000 in the store. I want to make $150,000 in the store. Okay? I only see these people 16 to 20 weeks. If I don't do it in that time frame, I'm done. I got to wait till next year. You know, I got a park right now. Anybody been to Madison to the Portellos? Anybody heard of Portellos? Chicago style hot dog, Vienna. Okay, immediately. Pardon me?
I love them.
Aren't they awesome?
Yeah, they are.
They're awesome. Now, people in Madison could have, they sell Vienna hot dogs in Madison. They sell Vienna hot dogs at Home Depot. Okay? But does that hot dog taste the same as Portillo's? It should, but it doesn't. Do they have chocolate cake at Portillo's? Is it not the most awesome cake you've ever eaten on the planet? Yeah.
They blend the cake in the milkshake.
There you go. They blend it. Okay. Now you see, those are all great ideas. But we can steal those ideas. We can sell Vienna hot dogs at our campground. We can blend that cake with our ice cream if we choose to. Are we paying attention? What is development? Well, I need the ice cream dipper thing. I need the sink. I need the scoop. I need the blender. I need a place for the cake. I need a freezer to put it in. You see, we got to spend money, but at the end of the day, how much can we add to the day? And can we do it with what we have? I mean, I don't expect, there's some people that go nuts. I want to do this, this, and this. I'm going to build this building and this building. They spend $500,000 and they only add $10,000 to their gross revenue. That was stupid. Okay? So, you know, development is a lot of different things. You got to have enough stuff, you know, to make it work. Yeah, I got 10 minutes, right? Sir?
Well, not all of it's about the revenue. Some of it might be put in stuff that creates efficiencies to reduce other costs.
Yeah, development, it could be, you know, the tricked out lawnmower, the backpacks, you know, those kinds of things. You know, how many people have a problem hiring staff this year, or that last year, or any year? Yeah? You realize that Amazon helped you out this year, right? I mean, you really think you're going to be able to hire at $7.25 an hour? Really? You think that's going to happen? Sometimes it will, if they're all 14 and 15, because they don't know any better. But if they're any good at what they do, and they figure out how good they are, you think they're going to stay there? And if you're any good as an operator, you're not going to stay there. You're going to make sure you pay them well, because you don't want them to leave, ever. You know, we like kids at 14 and 15 years old, we keep them until they get married or buy a house or something. We got them until they're 21, 22, 23, all through college. We have them bring their friends to work. We give them $200 bonuses if they bring a friend to work. I mean, you know, we reward them and we pay them with spiffs and we send them on vacation and we take them to dinner and we do all of those things.
And I can work for you.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you have to do those things. So, you know, hey, I want you to meet this guy in the back room. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Drew Nussbaum with the Wisconsin Department of Tourism.
Yep.
And I'm the next guy in this room, so.
He's a good man.
Or I can not be, and you stick around and listen to Bud. He's good too. So.
I've known him for a lot of years, and you know, he does an awesome job with tourism. He's got a major shakeup in his department right now. He's probably working for the best secretary they ever had, Stephanie Klett. She's gone. Got a new lady. Have no clue. But this guy I know, and he does a good job. So hopefully, you know, we're very much a part of the Department of Tourism. You know, we're respected in that department. We're big players. Camping is a big player in tourism. And so, you know, I'm glad to be part of that industry. And I think the state likes us. We'll see.
Very much so.
We'll see in a year.
I like it.
Yeah, there you go. Sir.
What's the best development that you've done that actually helped bring in more people to your park?
Well, it's,
Or
you know,
created the most revenue?
okay, the big thing is, there's a lot, see, there's a lot to this. Where are you? What's your demographics? Who do you want as a customer? People ask me, Bud, who's your customer? I said, it's real simple. Families with kids 12 and under. I don't want anything to do with anybody over 12. And I don't mind old people as long as they bring their grandkids under 12. Okay? Because that group of people I can handle. Okay? When the teenagers get there, the hormones are running, they don't have a clue. Okay? Their idea of a good time is to text one another and they're only 6 feet apart.
Thanks.
You know? How many people have you texted today that you've been here?
Just my mom.
Just once. See, now when I was growing up, we didn't have phones. We didn't even have one on the wall. Okay? So you know, the thing is, we look at what's going on. You know, the biggest campground group out there is KOA. And if you've studied what KOA has done in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a huge movement changing their whole work model. Their work model used to be campground next to the road, buzz down the road, I'm tired, pull in, park, take a shower, go to bed, and leave in the morning. That was their deal. Now you look at what's going on, they've rebranded themselves, and now they've got destination parks, and they're building parks, and they're making their people spend money, development money, on amenity packages, jumping pillows, space balls, bikes, trikes, you know, swimming pools, water slides. Why? Because the statistics say if you create an incredible experience, it's all about experience, People want to be entertained, and they want an experience all the time. And that makes it hard on us because we have to reinvent the experience. These guys have been in business forever. What did you ended up doing this fall? What did you add?
Oh, we had 2 bathhouses,
And
3 volleyball courts, 2 basketball courts, 2 swimming pools,
how many swimming pools?
2.
Why did you buy them? There must have been a reason.
And 2 very large tornado shelters
There you
that
go.
will store probably 700 people.
So you see, if he's smart, and I know he is, all of those types of things he did, he's going to tell the world that he has. And those people who want to be part of his world are going to show up. And they will. There's no doubt in my mind. The guys who sit on their hands and have the same puck that's never changed, and there's a bunch of them, you know, they don't understand why their income is static or it's declining. Because when families have an opportunity to go to a great experience with more stuff, they go. If you look in Wisconsin at new campgrounds, how many can you think of? You own, no, new, from scratch.
Oh,
No, new, I'm gonna go build a new one tomorrow. Not there, okay? And why isn't it there? The cost to build from scratch. Remember I told you that park in Michigan I was at was gonna be at $32,000 a site. I can buy a campground for less than $10,000 a site with the site already there. So why not buy something that's there? And then when I buy it, I can trick it out. I can paint it, I can put gravel down, blacktop. You know, maybe I'll have $15,000 a site when I get done, but that's far under new. And then if I wanted to get a permit to build new, 2 years if you could get one. Okay? So it's not happening. So I don't know if I answered your question, but you know, you self-fund. Camping, you know, what is camping? You know, camping is a generic term now. I can camp in my backyard. I can camp in my neighbor's backyard. I can go to state park, federal park, down the road. Why am I coming to you? There's got to be a reason. And you got to find that niche, you know. I know for me, I've got stuff. Okay, I've got a lot of stuff, and I got weird stuff, you know, like motorized shopping carts, motorized picnic tables, awesome water boards, and you know, stuff that nobody, you know, pudding wrestling, and you know, all kinds of weird stuff. People come there for that. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Got 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever have like a basic idea of like what an engineer cost would be for like say 50 sites? Do you have like a number in your head that you can kind of like say it's under this or over this, or is it just always completely different?
You know, I don't have I have no respect for those guys.
Yeah.
Okay? I just don't. Because, you know, anybody seen the book NFPA? The red book? Didn't we send that to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, if you look in that book, it's the Bible. They tell you how to build a site. Okay? You could tear out, I think, page 26, and it'll show you the dimensions and the angles of the dangle. And, you know, so if you could carry that into an engineer and say, here, now, I want to put 30 sites, here's a square. Take this drawing and put it in there. That shouldn't cost you more than $3,000, $4,000. Okay, but if it's going to be 15,000 or something, you know, why? We've already got the data. All I want is a stamp. Okay, that's it. Now, when you start saying, hey, I want to design a sewer system, you know, now we're talking a whole nother kind of engineer. What's the soils like? You know, blah 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 blah. That's different. But there's people who specialize in that. But you know, I've just not been happy. I'm not answering your question very good, you know, but, you know, if you do your homework, and, you know, I've laid out a lot of parks. You know how I lay parks out? I get into my truck, and I put a 30-foot trailer behind it, and I go out in the field, and I say, I want to drive in here. I drive in, and I say, well, those tracks look pretty good. 2 string lines, tape. Okay, then I drive next to that, and I can sit there and do this physically myself, and know it'll work. And then how far does that, how big a turning radius do I need? Okay, well, let's pull out of the site and see where the wheels go, because that's exactly what your camper's doing. You know, put a 45-foot fifth wheel behind there. That'll give you, you know, or drive a 45-foot motor coach. That's what I have. Put a car behind it and see how much room you need. Okay, that'll give you all the information you could ever want. Drive it. And then when you drive, say, which tree branch is going to scratch my paint? Okay, because you better cut those branches down. Okay, all of these little things are so easy to do. And then, you know, when you go and you say, in the new, anybody read the ADA rules? That's a whole joke in itself, okay? I mean, you're supposed to have 1 or 2 sites in your park that's ADA. That means the wheelchair's got to go all the way around and plug in and do everything on hard surface. Whole different set of rules. So you're supposed to have those. You're supposed to have a cabin that's ADA compliant also. And you're not supposed to rent that cabin until like up to 2 weeks prior to whenever. So it's pretty much going to sit there empty. Yeah, you're not supposed to just rent the cabin out, because if somebody calls you last minute with a wheelchair, you're supposed to have one.
I've never heard of that.
I think if all, there was a certain percentage of all your auto rental units are rented, then you can.
Yeah, but they made it. So you know what we did with our ADA unit? We never have anybody call, okay? So I made it pet friendly. Now I can fill it. Because we don't have anything else that we allow pets in. So we said, we'll use that unit. So at the last minute, I can always get it rented by telling somebody you can put your dog in there.
Well,
Okay?
here's the thing, though. How do you know if a person really is handicapped to use it?
Can't
There's
ask.
no way to.
Can't ask. Cannot ask.
That's right.
And you can't use the word handicap anymore.
Can't use that word either. Yeah.
I'm here for the state, I'm here to help today.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the next hour.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. I'm here for the next 4 days. If you got any questions, just